getting bigger day by day. Whether you like it or not, it's America's morning show. Quinn and Rose, 1-800-507-1047. The webpage is room.com. That's right, we're running against the wind here as the FCC prepares under Obama to become the fascist communication commissars. Fascist communication commissars. That's pretty much it. Henry Waxman and the FCC commissioners are trying to cook up a way to stop speech in America that they don't like, but call it fairness. And whatever you do, don't call it the Fairness Doctrine. We'll have more on that. Al Gore continues to lie about the Fairness Doctrine and why it was originally instituted. We'll get to that coming up as well. Let's see. Bill Press, liberal talk show host Bill Press, had an interview. I forget who it was with. I don't have it in front of me here. Was it Leslie Stahl or somebody? I forget. Anyway, he blurted out why he supports the Fairness Doctrine. Now, this is really funny. He said, I know why I'm interested in it, because I get up every morning at 3:45. I do 3 hours of talk radio every day from 6 to 9. That's my life. It's my business. I want to make money at it, and I want to be heard. Poor Bill. He thinks that the Fairness Doctrine will force radio stations to carry his show. Well, I'll tell you what, I wish I could force radio stations to carry this show. He thinks that what will happen is the government will come in and force his show onto radio stations that don't want to carry it, and he'll make more money because of the Fairness Doctrine. Bill, you're a chucklehead. The Fairness Doctrine was never designed for fairness. It was designed to intimidate broadcasters into not putting any talk shows on the air. And that's how it worked the last time, and that's how it'll work this time. As a matter of fact, it'll work even better this time because, some of the complicated stuff that they're suggesting, folks, you would need teams of lawyers to be able to wade through all the regulations and nuances and everything. No, it's just, you just throw it out the window and say, back to cooking shows. 1-800-507-1047. In the meantime, a Goodbye America heads up as the Thugocracy consolidates its power.
And while the rest of the nation is still sleeping, they'll be bidding America goodbye.
Michelle Malkin and townhall.com. Fresh off the $1 trillion Porculus bill signing in Denver, President Obama immediately launched into his next New Raw Deal expansion, a massive mortgage entitlement program, forcing, again, that's the hallmark of socialism, forcing lenders to refinance at an initial cost of $50 to $100 billion. That's in addition to the bipartisan-supported $50 billion that's in the stimulus bill to bail out homeowners underwater in their mortgages, and $2 billion in neighborhood stabilization funds to alleviate the foreclosure crisis. Now, what is neighborhood stabilization? Well, I told you what it was earlier in the hour, and I'll repeat myself. What is an unstable neighborhood? Well, that's a neighborhood where there's trouble. And the suggestion here is that if people in the neighborhood don't get everything that they want, there's going to be trouble. If they get what they want, then things will be quiet. So really, neighborhood stabilization is code for no justice, no peace. In tandem with the White House bad borrowers bailout, Obama's friends at the Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now, ACORN, I've been warning you about ACORN for 15 years, and now, as the Reverend Wright said, the chickens are coming home to roost. They're launching a new campaign of their own, the Home Savers Campaign. Do you see what's happening here? We ended up in this mess because we loaned money to people who couldn't pay back their mortgages. And so now, part of the so-called rescue is to do what? Give money to people who can't pay their mortgages. This is what got us here in the first place. They'll never stop. When socialism screws up as big as it did in the CRA subprime mortgage meltdown, triggered, by the way, by the Clinton administration in 1995, when socialism screws up this badly, what does it do? Does it correct itself? No. It blames somebody else capitalism, Bush, and then it continues to do what it was doing before. Anyway, yes, so all at the same time here, we find that Acorn is launching a new campaign of their own, the Home Savers Campaign. Why? It's a coinky-dink. As with most of the bully tactics of the radical left-wing group, it ain't going to be pretty. There are shock troops in this organization, shock troops who hit the streets doing the dirty work while the community organizer-in-chief, Hussein Obama, keeps his delicate hands clean. Trumpets Acorn, quote, on February 19th, Acorn members will launch a new tactic in fighting foreclosures, civil disobedience. Since when was that new for the left? Participants in the Acorn Home Savers campaign nationwide will simply refuse to move out of foreclosed homes, or in some cases, move back in. Acorn homesteaders intend to squat in their homes until a comprehensive federal solution for people facing foreclosure is in place because they believe a house is a civil right. How do they believe that? Because group politics says that whatever the group says is a civil right, it's a civil right, bud, and you're a bigot if you deny it. Acorn's foot soldiers, funded, by the way, with over $2 billion of your tax money, will scream, pound their fists, chain themselves to buildings, padlock the doors, and engage in illegal behavior until they get what they want. This is so adolescent. It is a recipe for anarchy. Threatens Baltimore's Acorn leader Louis Beverly, who calls himself a foreclosure fighter. Right. After you've used all your legal options, your last resort is civil disobedience. In other words, violence. We're talking about families who've been in their homes for 20 or 30 years. You know what? Maybe some of them have. We're really talking about people who got subprime mortgages in the last 10. People who are assets to the community. People who look out for the elderly, who have community associations. And these are the, have you ever walked through one of these communities? Is there anybody in these communities doing anything like this? All I see is gang graffiti and guys hanging on the street corner. We can all sympathize with good folks who can't pay their bills, but as I've said repeatedly in my criticism of the mortgage entitlement mentality embraced by both parties in Washington, home ownership is not a civil right, and neither is home retention. Artificially propping up the housing market is only going to result in more of the same costly borrow and spend and panic and repeat cycles that got us into this mess in the first place. Failing corporations need to fail. So do failing home borrowers. This is borrowing from frugal renter Peter to pay profligate Paul's home loan. Now, that's the kind of theft that should be the subject of civil disobedience, but those of us who would be upset about it are too busy out working for a living. Instead, Acorn offices, funded, by the way, with your tax dollars, are training teams of so-called home savers, described as people ready and willing to mobilize on short notice to defend the homesteaders against the attempts to evict them. Ready, willing, and able to mobilize on short notice because they are either unemployed or employed full-time as Acorn shakedown artists. Guess who's encouraging them to defy the law? Democratic Representative Marcy Kaptur of Ohio, who told them, quote, stay in your homes. If the American people, anybody out there is being foreclosed, don't leave. The housing bullies will be assisted by left-wing propaganda documentarians at the Brave New Foundation, headed up by Hollywood lib Robert Greenwald, who will disseminate sob stories to crank up pressure while Obama pushes his housing entitlement plan. Acorn is targeting the following cities: Tucson, Oakland, Los Angeles, Contra Costa County, California, Orlando, Baltimore, Bridgeport, Wilmington, Broward County, Florida, Flint, Detroit, Minneapolis, Raleigh, Pittsburgh, Dallas, Albany, New York, Cincinnati. Acorn has waited 3 decades for this moment in the sun. And as Obama promised Acorn members at a forum in December of 2007, we are going to be calling on all of you. We're going to call all of you in to help us shape the agenda. We're going to be having meetings all across the country so that you have input into the agenda. The moment is nigh. Prepare for lawlessness, says Michelle Malkin. I disagree, Michelle. It's not lawlessness anymore. Yesterday, Obama signed it into law. The law is now no justice, no peace, except for certain groups.
And while the rest of the nation is still sleeping,